Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host. And I'd like to ask you, do you know any children of the fifth world? Wait a second, what is that? Well, let's find out about the fifth world. And maybe we need to know about it to take care of our children better and to admire them even more than we might be. And to help us do that is the author who is back again on the show, and I'm so happy to have her tell us about the children of the fifth world, which is the name of her book. It's a guide to the coming changes in human consciousness. So let's talk with P.M.H. Atwater. P.M.H., welcome to Energy Stew.
Hi, Peter. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad to talk with you because we're in a time of unusual children coming into this world.
We are indeed. As far as I'm concerned, the human race is changing as a race. Yeah.
Well, but are we all changing together? And it's a bumpy road.
Well, certainly we're all changing together, but specifically, we have a whole raft of people coming in now. They've been doing it since about 1932. Excuse me, not 32, 1982. And from then on, and picking up speed more and more and more, are these children that just simply don't fit. They don't fit what we think a child should be, what we were.
And they don't learn the way they don't learn the way we learned.
No, they don't think the way we think. They don't operate or go about the world in the way we did.
Well, I have to say that I had an experience with my younger son when he was quite young, and he was different, doing everything in different ways. And I said, Chris, you really need to get in alignment with, what is understood as proper behavior, proper learning, all these things that we need you to behave properly about. And he said, Dad, it's a different world now. It's a different time. And we think differently. People my age think differently. And he was just a kid. And I said, that's impossible, because I know how the world works from my experience. And you're telling me that my experience doesn't count anymore.
Well, to them, it doesn't. They think differently, they see different, they act different. Yes, indeed. A lot of that is because of the internet, certainly. The internet, no holds barred. The internet is changing brain function. It's changing brain structure. It's making us smarter, making the kids smarter, all of us smarter in many ways. But they're losing the ability to really feel and smell and sense and touch. So many of them are very lonely.
But I think it's that their minds might not slow down enough.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, but they're becoming more and more mental and less physical. So physical in the sense of emotions. Uh-huh. So they don't pick up the way we use words, you and I.
Right.
They won't pick up on that. They won't pick up the way we touch each other and the way we pat each other on the back or touch each other's shoulders. They don't pick up on that at all. So it's a very different way of looking at the world. In esoteric and the older ways of looking at things, they then tell us that there's been a whole schedule, if you will, of the various root races, the various structured, the various structures of human beings coming into the world. The first one began according to Edgar Casey, according to Madame Blavatsky, according to various esoteric and lore masters that began about 18 million years ago. So we began sort of like more ethereal kind of beings, not really physical, and over the many centuries and millions of years, the human race has been recognized, finally came into a more intelligent way, a more civilized way. Farming began, all of this kind of stuff that, we finally have really what we consider the human race today. But even so, even though we've advanced in many ways, we have just begun to change.
Right,
Just begun.
and we can see that now in all the innovations, the new inventions, technology. Everything is speeding up on this planet, and our brains are speeding up too, because the planet, the energy of the planet itself has increased.
Right, but the coming of the fifth root race, where we are now, the coming of the fifth root race, the people we are now, that began really in the 1800s. That's when the New Thought movement began. That began in the early 1800s.
People like Emerson.
That's later in the 1800s. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Absolutely. Emerson and certainly Madame Blavatsky, but going back further than that, when you get Phineas Quimby, you get all of these great thinkers, these new thinkers, came to show us in a different way that there are lots of levels to life. There's not just the physical.
And Gurdjieff.
Yeah, all of them.
Ospensky. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the brilliance of some of these people of the past, and then they passed the baton.
They passed the baton. They opened the door for us. So now the fifth root race is beginning to bloom.
But they're doing it on their own. You and I can refer to the past and draw from it. But these people are creating their own world.
Yes, they are.
And in their own way. And I was looking at, in your book, the book covers so much territory of change in human thinking and human awareness and the different stages of it, of growth. It's wonderful to read because you map it all out, so carefully. But talking about the people of today and how they learn so differently, because and I keep thinking of my younger son, who was a very bad student, and yet he learned math strictly on his own. He developed it himself because he was interested in selling trading cards as like a 4-year-old.
And he had their own business at the age of 6.
Yeah, well, right. He was out there on the street with a table selling cards at 6, and he knew very interesting math because he had to deal with all of this business that he was in. And when he went to school, they said, "This is the way you do it." And he looked at them and said, "No, I know how to do it my way."
Well, yeah, that's the way they are. On the plus side, they're very, very intelligent, even if flunking and can't spell. Don't let these kids fool you. They're very intelligent. About 1/3 are geniuses, even if learning disabled. They're very music-oriented, very rhythmic, unusually creative, spiritually minded, intuitive, psychic. Many can remember past lives. excellent with math. Don't let them fool you about this, like your son. They're natural healers, ready to go entrepreneurs. They are irreverent. They have quirky ideas, very unique beliefs, visionary problem solvers. They're very knowing, volunteer-minded humanitarians, groupies. They move as one, as if they were part of a collective, often attend night school. Let me briefly tell you about night school. Let me give you an example. I was in a shopping center, and a woman was right next to me, a mother, a little boy. I guess he's maybe, about 6 or 7. And way down the hall in this shopping center was a mom and dad and their little boy. Looked like he, could match the one next to me. And the 2 boys yelled at each other, and they knew their names. And they went running to each other as if they were long-lost buddies. And that just surprised everybody, because the woman on my right with her little son, she was local. The parents way down the hall with their little boy, they were just tourists passing through. They'd never been in this part of the country before. These 2
But
boys
they recognized each other. Their souls recognized
these
each other.
2 boys went to school, went to night school together. They took the same classes. They were under the same teacher, had the same homework. Now, I hope you're hearing me. They went to school at night when you and I would think they're sleeping. No, they were in school.
Okay. You're talking about out of body at night while they're sleeping. They went to a school.
They went to a night school.
Yes.
And these 2 boys went to the same school, had the same teacher, studying the same thing, even though there was no way they could have ever known each other.
Physically,
right.
Right. No, I love that.
And, these kids abstract at very young ages. They're spatial learners. The fusion of sexes and gender mixing. They are multisensory and multi-channelers who live in a multiverse. Now, if you look at the flip side, the minus side, they're very impulsive and impatient. I call them the quick click kids. They feel entitled, overconfident. They are the ultimate consumers. They have an underlying anger, little tolerance for lies or manipulation. They prefer the astral and synthetic worlds. They are highly sensitive to drugs, snack foods, metals, highly sensitive to anything that's toxic or incoherent, electronic energy. They do not assimilate nutrition well. They just don't. They have no concept of authority. They need mentors, not bosses. Appear wiser than they are. Self-deception is a really big issue. It's really easy for them to deceive themselves.
When you say they appear wiser than they are,
yeah,
I think what you're saying is that they get ahead of themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
And they need life to catch up, life experience to catch up with them.
Yeah, right. They do not they do not understand the effort needed to process or refine. So they don't understand copyrights. They don't understand any of that. They think everything should be free, everything should be open. You could, you should be able to get anything, anytime, anywhere. And of course that that creates problems with jobs and money and,
Yeah, but what I think you're talking about is a sense of expansiveness, and they don't want to be bridled.
Yeah.
They have such expansive minds.
And that can cause misunderstandings and problems, of course. They expect things to come to them. They do not recognize boundaries, even that of skin. Their greatest fear, look at this, their greatest fear is silence. These children do not know how to handle silence.
Yeah, they're so busy. Well, because they have multifaceted minds that can carry so many different thoughts at the same time.
Do you know in school, the best tool, the incredible tools teachers have today, I've done a lot of experiments, is twice a day for break time, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon. When the break time comes, that break time is silence. When the break starts, it's announced, the break time, so they're sitting in their chairs. No one can talk in the whole building. There cannot be any noise, not with the janitors, nobody, no noise. The kids can meditate, they can dream, they can just sit there, whatever. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon. Those schools that do this have an 80% rise in kids' scores.
Wow.
In school, 80%.
That's amazing. Well, I guess, there has to be some structure. This creates it. Well, that's good.
Yeah, but you see, this is the idea of free form. This is the idea of silence, because these children are afraid of silence. So, I mean, their world is a noisy one. It's always
Busy.
The internet or something else.
Sure.
So here is unstructured silence, and if you give them that, then the difference in their grades and their scores and their attention is just marvelous.
Uh-huh. So it's really about learning how to educate these new minds and give them a chance to to find their own footing in a world that is already in a sense failed. Because certainly we've done a good job of creating a need for change.
Well, yeah, need for change. The kids look at us and consider us a failure.
Right.
Consider the world a failure. A failure. The government's a failure.
Yes, it is.
They look at it all as a failure. Therefore, it's up to them, they think, to correct everything.
Right.
So they're very busy doing just that. Many of these kids are very psychic. They're very intuitive. In that lane, I would recommend to everybody and anybody what is called the Psychic Awareness Institute. Let's see if I can give you, let's see, a website. It's called the Profound Awareness Institute. It's Nancy at psykids.org. Psy is spelled PSYKIDS.org. That's Nancy, NANCY at psykids.org. She's in, I believe, North Carolina. She has the best way to train children and their parents in how to handle intuitive abilities, how to handle your psychic abilities, how to handle this new intelligence, this greater intelligence these kids are coming in with. The Profound Awareness Institute is better than anything I've ever found, so I highly recommend it.
Right. And now what about families where the children seem to be still? They're not excited. They're kind of depressed, or they're disappointing to people. They don't really want to go to school, or they don't really want to socialize. They what is going on with them?
Well, certainly get them back in nature. Oh, absolutely getting back in nature if you possibly can. Certainly around animals, yes. Trees, yes.
That makes sense.
Having a garden, yes.
Mhm.
That brings to the forefront their own natural ability to heal and to feel and to be creative. Get them around animals. Take them to the zoo, a petting zoo if you possibly can. Have them have an animal if they can. Um, but certainly nature. So getting them where they have a plot of land or something that they can raise, that will make a huge difference.
Sure. There's a one page in your book where you talk about the different minds, and they're rational or imaginative or beautiful or natural or embodied or empathic or contemplative. And it's I loved hearing that, and I mean reading that, because there are these many ways that different people emphasize in their lives, and it's a beautiful mind. And you talk about it as being we see those people as being very present. It was
They're
beautiful.
very present and they're unusually intelligent,
Uh-huh.
even if they're flunking in school. Remember that.
Yeah.
We've got about um, one third take the standard IQ tests, and they score genius. For those who have autism or some of the various kinds of supposedly disorders, autism, dyslexia, so forth and so on, but especially autistic children, if you have them take the Ravens test instead of the Wechsler test, those are your standard IQ tests. The Wechsler test tests what you've learned, but the Ravens test is very fluid, and it tests fluid intelligence. In other words, what you can learn. And if you do that with all the children in the world, 1/3 of the children in the world today test out geniuses, maybe 150 or above, or certainly 135,
And
140 above.
those are children who wouldn't have done well on the other test.
Well, I'm talking about the standard kids. Now, if you do that, if the autistic kids take the Ravens test, they also will, 1/3 of them test out genius 150 to 160. These kids who seemingly can't talk, can't perform in the way that we would normally think they could, they're very smart. There are 2 genes that build a better brain. And what we're finding today is that, again, 1/3 of them throughout the world that take the standard IQ test are coming up with both genes, which means we've got really intelligent kids. Um, I want to dwell a little bit on that 1/3 factor.
Good, but we only have a few minutes left
Oh,
of
we
the
only have a
show.
few minutes. Oh,
But maybe another show we could do
you
that.
got to read the
But
book.
yeah, but and you've been talking about a third here and a third there in your descriptions of people. So I
They're
understand
coming
that.
in thirds.
Yeah.
They are. 1/3, um, have both of these genes that build a better brain. 1/3 are scoring genius without any uh, um, various markers from their family. Um, 1/3 1/3 have no sense of living a full life. Imagine, no sense of living a full life, and they're okay with that. 2/3 have no intention of marrying or going to college or having a home. They want to live their way, and their way is very, very different from what we think in terms of. 1/3 are profoundly gifted, 1/3 are quite intelligent, creative, and 1/3 are sociopaths or psychopaths. We're having the other kind coming in too. Those that are more violent or just not interested in humankind, as you and I note. You know, when I look at that, when I look at all these thirds, divisions of thirds and triangles, you know, that's the divine order of things. That's the divine order, the spiritual kingdoms, the golden rule. Everything is in thirds. And if you look at that, you know, that's the universal order of things. And when I step back and think, okay, we're getting all of this stuff and it's coming in thirds, maybe God has a different plan, or that higher order, that higher intelligence, whatever you want to call it, has a different plan for humankind than we do.
Well, I'm sure. So this is great talking with you, PMH. And we want everybody to know that your website is PMH Atwater.
.com.
.com.
www.pmhatwater.com.
And your book is Children of the Fifth World, A Guide to the Coming Changes in Human Consciousness. And it's so much fun to talk with you.
Oh, it's always fun to talk to you too.
Thanks so much for being on Energy
Bye-bye.
Stew.
Bye-bye, everybody.
And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at prn.fm. I can be reached at peter@heartriver, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.